Hi, welcome to Take 5, where we daily consider devotional thoughts from Oswald Chambers' book, My Utmost for His Highest. Today is July 4th, and the title of today's devotional is One of God's Great Don'ts. Do not fret, it only causes harm, chapter 37 and verse 8. There is very little to add to Dr. Chambers' study today, for he says it very succinctly. The word fret is to worry, and he does use the two synonymously. I find fret to not carry the strength of the word worry, likely due to our using it most frequently. He begins by defining worry, getting ourselves out of joint, mentally or spiritually. There is likely no need to further define worry, for it is doubtful that any of us are unaware of what it means or how it feels. The first worry was in the Garden of Eden after doing what God said not to do. As well, that's the first time of the use of the word afraid, Genesis 3 and verse 10. They didn't know what would be the repercussion of their having disobeyed God. It's an interesting direction that Chambers takes the study. It is one thing to say, do not fret, but something very different to have such a nature that you will find yourself unable to fret. Have you ever given consideration to the idea of being liberated to not worry? Jesus said in Matthew 6 and verse 25 for us to not be anxious about our life, to not have anxiety or worry. To not worry is easy when there's nothing about which to worry. Chambers continues, it's easy to say rest in the Lord and wait patiently for Him, Psalm 37 verse 7, until our own little world is turned upside down and we are forced to live in confusion and agony like so many other people. Chambers asks, is it possible to rest in the Lord then? Though we are not to be of this world, we still live in this world. Unfortunately, even as Christians, we still allow ourselves to remain a part of this world. God is not the biggest, most important factor in our life. If He were, we would not be so wrapped up in worldly ways which do not glorify God. Chambers says in regards to the confusion that occurs in life that if this do not doesn't work there, then it will not work anywhere. This do not must work during our days of difficulty and uncertainty, as well as our peaceful days, or it will never work. And if it will not work in your particular case, it will not work for anyone else. Resting in the Lord is not dependent on your own external circumstances at all, but on your relationship with God Himself. Worrying always results in sin. We tend to think that a little anxiety and worry are simply an indication of how wise we really are, yet it is actually a much better indication of just how wicked we are. Fretting rises from our determination to have our own way. Our Lord never worried and was never anxious because His purpose was never to accomplish His own plans, but to fulfill God's plans. Fretting is wickedness for a child of God. Have you ever been propping up that foolish soul of yours with the idea that your circumstances are too much for God to handle? Set all your opinions and speculations aside and abide under the shadow of the Almighty, Psalm 91, verse 1. Deliberately tell God that you will not fret about whatever concerns you. All our fretting and worrying is caused by planning without God. This can be summed up in that with release comes rest. The issue boils down to the question of, over what am I worried? Is it like with Adam and Eve? I have done something which I know is displeasing to God, and I'm concerned about the repercussions from it that will come from God or from others? Or is it more simple in the fact that I don't know how things are going to turn out in a situation, and especially don't know if they will go the way that I want? We tend to be anxious when we are the ones losing control of a situation. Again, referring back to the original sin, you shall be as God, knowing good and evil, and therefore not need to trust and rely, to rest in Him. That's the sin of worry, the lack of trust it demonstrates in the care of God for us. It's our saying, I don't know if God will handle this the way that I want it to, so I worry about the outcome. We worry about what it will cost us in life to turn over complete control to God. A large cost is that of peace. By design, not by nature, but by design, the Christian is to be the person of greatest peace, for they are possessed by God, filled with His Spirit, and loved with an everlasting love. But you have to believe that, so to live it. Thanks for being here today. May God's grace and peace be ours as we seek to live our utmost for His highest. Have a good day. Thanks now. Bye.